Assalamu alaikum. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbana atina min ladunka rahmah wa hayyi lana min amrina rashada. Wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, we'll start with a new topic, subject, which is the 25th flash, which is the message for the sick. Inshallah, Suhail will take us in that journey, inshallah. Go ahead, Suhail.
Assalamu alaikum. We are reading from the 25th Flash, so the beginning of the Flash on page 265 um, online. So 25th Flash, message for the sick. This treatise consists of 25 remedies. It was written as a salve, a solace, and a prescription for the sick, and in order to visit them and wish them speedy recovery. Warning and apology. This immaterial prescription was written with a speed greater than all my other writings. This treatise was written in 4.5 hours, as he says. And since time could not be found to correct and study it, unlike all the others, it was read only once, and that at great speed like its composition. That is to say, it has remained in the disordered state of a first draft. I do not consider it necessary to go over carefully the things which has occurred to me in that natural manner, lest they be spoiled by arranging them and paying them undue attention. Readers, and especially the sick, should not feel upset and offended at any disagreeable expressions or harsh words and phrases. Let them rather pray for me. So, in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, those who say, when afflicted by calamity, to God do we belong, and to him is our return. Chapter 2, verse 156. Who gives me food and drink, and when I am ill, it is he who cures me. Chapter 26, verse 79 and 80. I don't know if you want to bring up the verses here. Verse 1, Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter or verse 156. So, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. So those who say when afflicted by calamity or musiba, قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Surely to Allah we belong to Him and we will return, or to Him is our return. And then the other verses, chapter 26, verse 79 and 80. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. والذي هو يطعمني ويسقي يسقين. It is he is the one who provides me with food or feeds me or gives me food and drink. And the next verse, وَإِذَا مَرِضْتُ فَهُوَ يَشْفِينِ. And and when I am ill, um, and if I am ill, it is he who, cures me or, yeah. Okay. All right. So in this flash, we describe briefly 25 remedies which may offer true consolation and a beneficial cure for the sick and those struck by disaster, who form 1/10 of mankind. Okay. First remedy. Um, Unhappy sick person, do not be anxious, have patience. Your illness is not a malady for you, it is a sort of cure, for life departs like capital. If it yields no fruits, it is wasted, and if it passes in ease and heedlessness, it passes swiftly. Illness makes that capital of yours yield huge profits. Moreover, it does not allow your life to pass quickly, it restrains it and lengthens it, so that it will depart after yielding its fruits. An indication that your life is lengthened through illness is the following much repeated proverb: the times of calamity are long, the times of happiness most brief. Okay. Uh, we can, because it's 25 remedies, we could stop after every remedy to discuss. Um, okay. So mentioned these verses. It's a message for the sick. And the first remedy, he says, which is interesting, it's a sort of cure for you for life departs like capital. And he's looking at it from a different perspective of what life is. Life being a cultivation or a means to cultivate for the hereafter. Um, and so you're given this capital of which is time, your life, essentially. Um, and uh, rather than just it passing quickly without any thought or use of that time or capital, you are allowed to cultivate it, use it as a cultivation for life in the hereafter. And I think he means that by um, uh, reflection. So, which I think maybe he'll go into that, but I think he is using it as sort of a reflection or as a means to connect back to your Lord, your creator. Um, any thoughts on them before I go to the second remedy?
No, I'm wondering about the first remedy still. Yeah, so why is he saying unhappy sick person, right? When you're sick, you kind of
Yeah,
worry about it, right? And then he's really discussing something else, not the sickness anymore.
correct. Yeah. So
Maybe it's like you said, thought process is very different. He says, don't worry about the sickness anymore, right? He's talking about life. How is that related? Like your sickness and then life and you know, somebody who's sick would be expecting, hey, can you console me? Yes, okay, let's take some medicine and then you'll get better, right? But he's completely like discussing, hey, your life will go, is capital. Worry about your life, what you're doing in life. Capital means something really precious, right? Don't waste it, right? If it yields no fruits, then your life is basically just meaningless in a way, right? So if it's wasted, passes in ease and heedlessness. And then it goes fast. How come with ease and right the pa life passes quickly or swiftly? That's one question, right? Versus if you're doing things right, so illness makes the calorie you'll heal more, or if it does not allow your life pass quickly, restrains it and lengthens it.
yeah, it's interesting because as you said, like his perspective on life is very different of what life actually is. People think of life as this sort of thing that we just have and presume it that we have to be healthy, whatever that means, and that when you're sick, you're not happy about it. But it's sort of a message, which my guess is maybe go into later, but a message from your creator, your source, your sustainer, as a means to draw close to him. So, you know, thinking of life more as like an investment for the hereafter changes your perspective about what illness actually is, than like it being sort of a problem or a hindrance in your life or something that doesn't go as planned. Um, so um, his purpose in life is, or his view of the purpose of life is very different than what people normally would think about in that regard. So, um, so that's why I say I like it when he says it does not allow your life to pass quickly because I think what he's saying is like without any thought or reflection or connection, it restrains it and lengthens it. In other words, like it lengthens time. That's why he says the times of calamity are long because that's when you feel like it's never going to end, but that's actually the best time to, ponder upon what this means. So, whereas the times of happiness most brief, when you're happy, things pass so quickly you don't even realize it. But that's actually when you're maybe the most heedless. So, uh, That's why it passes quickly. So
Because of the heedlessness, the life passes quickly, you think? Or
yeah, like when you are unaware, and you're just what enjoying life, things go you don't actually reflect on the moment. You're just living moment to moment. You don't even really think about what's happening, you know? So um but and then also I think in another way it's sort of it's giving value to the time you have. Like it's showing the value
yeah.
in the time you have, so it restrains it. Like time doesn't just pass quickly at that point, your perception of time at least. It gives you the value of time. And so you reflect on that. Think about that.
So what is this fruit? Basically, it yields no fruits. Right? For life, life yields no fruits. So there's a purpose to life, basically. What's the fruit in that purpose?
Yeah. Well, I guess what do you think about what that means? Because he's saying like it's life is capital and it yields a fruit, but um that's what I'm saying. Maybe he'll go into that a little later, but what do you think he's referencing?
I mean, definitely is going into like relating it to the verses, basically, right? That we kind of
Yeah.
looked into,
Yeah.
right? So they say, kind of like,
In one respect, the fruit is
yeah,
like
that
this,
connection maybe that you
you know,
establish with your Lord, that may be one fruit, the belief
him
aspect.
is our return. Um, so yeah, connection.
So,
So you using the moment you have, this illness you have to return back to him. So
I mean, the thing is like, who gives me food and drink, and when I'm ill, it is He who cures me. So even the sickness is given by Him, right? The Lord of the universe for a reason. It's not just randomly or, we usually go into cause and effect. So because I couldn't do this or I did this but then everything was arranged for you to experience that in a way.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's all like a divine message. So always being acted upon.
Yeah. So how do we like understand like through like illness, the life is lengthened, right? It gives, how is it? Times of calamity are long, the times of happiness. So there's a proverb he says, right? So these are calamity or sickness, if it's going for too long, for example.
Um, so I guess, the question is like, what does he mean? Because that's what I was saying. He's defining time somewhere differently. There's time out there, which is like, seconds, minutes, hours. But then there's our perception of time in the sense that, you know, there's a sort of immaterial fruit from our life occurrences, our illnesses, our maladies, as he says. And when you connect to the source, it's like an eternal connection. So in that regard, there's no time per se. When you connect to the creator, this eternal absolute source, your connection is like, an eternal connection, not something temporal. Um, so um, in this regard, there's a time out there, but there's a material sort of time in terms of connection to the source who's beyond this world. So, there's like two different times taking place. One that's timeless and one that's the time of this world. So the timeless connections between you and your creator, and then time being, this life, this temporal life. So it makes like a brief moment an eternal connection. But
Yeah, yeah, I understand. Yeah, that makes sense basically, because if you are connected with your source of existence or the one who gave you sickness, yeah, that gains, because he's an like if I understand he's an absolute one, yeah, that gains that eternal kind of relationship in a way.
yeah, yeah.
But now I understand why he said the apology in the beginning. Because he said like I wrote this very fast, but then he gives an apology basically because he's like his explanation is completely different from what ha has to do with sickness in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not. And then also, he said unhappy is like being a little harsh. Unhappy is like be patient or don't be anxious or have patience. That's not really what people would necessarily want to hear, even though it's really what they should hear, but that's not what they want to hear when they're ill.
Yeah,
Like myself, dealing with people who are ill, they're, that's not necessarily what they want to hear. They want, as you said, like some material cure for their body. So, um, and it doesn't really matter if somebody's Muslim or not Muslim. This is kind of how human beings are.
right.
So, yeah. Hmm.
All right.
Any other thoughts? We can go to the second remedy.
Yeah, let's go to second now. Yeah.
So, second remedy, O ill person who lacks patience, be patient indeed, offer thanks. Your illness may transform each of the minutes of your life into the equivalent of an hour's worship. For worship is of two kinds. One is positive, like the well-known worship of supplication and the five daily prayers. One is positive, like the well-known worship of supplication and the five daily prayers. The other are negative forms of worship, like illness and calamities. Let me just read that again. One is positive, like the well-known worship of supplication and the five daily prayers. The other are negative forms of worship, like illness and calamities. By means of these, those afflicted realize their impotence and weakness. They beseech their all-compassionate Creator and take refuge in Him. They manifest worship which is sincere and without hypocrisy. Yes, there is a sound narration stating that a life passed in illness is counted as worship for the believer. Uh, um, Life passed in illness is counted as worship for the believer on condition he does not complain about God. And okay, that's uh, he quotes a source there from Suyuti. Um, it is even established by sound narration and by those who uncover the realities of creation. It is even established by sound narrations and by those who uncover the realities of creation that 1 minute's illness of some people who are completely patient and thankful becomes the equivalent of an hour's worship. Um, and a minute's illness of certain perfected men, the equivalent of a day's worship. So you should not complain about an illness, which is as though it transforms 1 minute of your life into 1,000 minutes and gains for you long life. You should offer thanks. Hmm. So it's a completely different perspective. He's like, it's strange compared to what we typically do. He's saying, be thankful that you're sick. So be patient and indeed offer thanks. That's a very strange way to put it. Because he's saying, look at the result of it. 1 minute's worship of your is the equivalent of an hour's worship. Sorry, 1 minute of your life becomes the equivalent of an hour's worship. Only as he says, like if you beseech the all-compassionate creator and take refuge in him. People realize their impotence and weakness, which is different than he says like the quote unquote positive uh, worship and supplication, the five daily prayers. Um, this is more called like what people may perceive as negative because it's the reason for it is something that you don't like illness or calamity. Um, But that's how a minute of affliction can turn into an hour's work by just beseeching or returning back, as he says in the verse, by ilahi turja'un, or I think that's what the verse exactly says. Uh, so and to him is sorry, is it ilahi raji'un? I think and to him is the return. Um, so the as long as and I like that because he puts on condition that he does not complain about God, because in complaint you're not being thankful. So it's the complete opposite. You're being ungrateful, unthankful. And so you're going to lose the opportunity to connect back to him, to beseech him. rather than just complaining like, oh, why did you do this? Why did you do that? You're not compassionate. You're not this. You're not that. Rather than saying, oh, you are an all compassionate creator because I am weak and impotent and I am in need of you. You are the one that gives me the illness and then provides me the cure. Um, so, um, it's interesting how that it is kind of a human nature that we need sometimes these maladies or calamities or illnesses to really go back to him. It's harder to do it when everything is going well in the positive sense, as he says. Um, so, but that's what we should be thankful for because that's sort of the purpose of life is to return back to him, and it's in some ways miraculous that for the vast majority of the time, vast majority of the time, most people in the world, illnesses are brief, maybe a day, maybe 2 days, maybe 3 days, something like that. Most of the time. Now, there's exceptions. I mean, some people get ill for prolonged periods of time, but for most humans on the world, most people don't face calamity. Most people, if they face an illness, is brief. But it's in that brief moment that human beings complain or are unthankful, even though it's brief, part of their life. But they don't see it as sort of a thankful opportunity, like a great opportunity to be thankful for. So, I don't know if anybody else had any thoughts about this.
I think you pretty much explained it. Yeah, Alhamdulillah. So,
Yeah. So first he starts with patience, and now he's saying thankfulness, which is strange, as you said earlier. So we go to the third remedy, impatient sick person. The fact that those who come to this world continuously depart, and the young grow old, and man perpetually revolves amid death and separation, testifies that he did not come to this world to enjoy himself and receive pleasure. So let me read that again. Impatient, sick person. The fact that those who come to this world continuously depart, and the young grow old, and man perpetually revolves amid death and separation, testifies that he did not come to this world to enjoy himself and receive pleasure. Moreover, while man is the most perfect, the most elevated of living beings, and the best endowed in regard to members and faculties, he dwells on past pleasures and future pains, and so passes a grievous, troublesome life lower than animals. This means that man did not come to this world to live in a fine manner and pass his life in ease and pleasure. Rather, he possesses vast capital, and he came here to work and do trade for an eternal, everlasting life. He possesses vast capital, and he came here to work and do trade for an eternal, everlasting life. The capital given to man is his lifetime. Had there been no illness, good health, and well-being, had there been no illness, good health and well-being would have caused heedlessness, for they show the world to be pleasant and make the hereafter forgotten. They do not want death and the grave illness. Sorry, they do not want death and the grave uh, to be thought of. They do not want death and the grave to be thought of. They cause the capital of life to be wasted on trifles, whereas illness suddenly opens the eyes. It says to the body, "You are not immortal. You have not been left to your own devices. You have a duty. Give up your pride. Think of the one who created you. Know that you will enter the grave, so prepare yourself for it." From this point of view, illness is an admonishing guide and advisor that never deceives. It should not be complained about in this respect. Indeed, should be thanked for, and if it is not too severe, patience should be sought to endure it. Hmm. Interesting. Okay. So in the third round is kind of an extension of what he said before. Um, Human beings continuously think about or their life essentially revolves around death because people are coming and going, departing, being born, uh, and so everyone is a witness. Even the people around you are a witness to the fact that the world, um, it's not pretty much a place to just enjoy yourself and get people have pleasure. Uh, So, and and the strange thing about human beings, very interesting, is that, as he says, since I mean, even though we're elevated in the sense that human beings have these faculties that make them well beyond the nature of all other creatures on the earth or in the world. We can think, we can reason, we can feel, we can believe, we can conclude, we can see beyond things, connect to things beyond ourselves, like the creators, so anything. Think about the past, present, and future. It's also those same things that allows us to dwell on the past and be fearful of the future. And so we kind of, descend lower than animals, as he says. Um, So, as he says, life is not about pleasure and ease. It's about using the capital we have and to do trade for an eternal, everlasting life. That's the point. So, somebody's given us this time, this life. What's the point of it is to prepare for the hereafter, the eternal life. And as he said, we talked about previously, it's easier to, sorry, it's difficult to reflect when things are good, so to speak. We become heedless because everything just looks great. We think about death or the hereafter. Um, and we waste things on irrelevant things in our life. But illness shows that the grave is inevitable, death is inevitable. We aren't immortal. So give up our pride, meaning, you know, discard our egocentric self, like things being concerned about our pleasures and what we want and uh, this enjoyments, but think about our creator, the one who created you. So prepare for it. So it's like an angel. I thought when I was reading this, it's like an angel. These illnesses are just angelic messages from the creator. They're like messages, admonishments, guides. Um, so we should listen to them and be patient with them. So, um, any thoughts?
Yeah, so just like he's like you're like right in terms of continuation, basically, about what the purpose of life is, right? Manner his life in ease and pleasure versus getting to know or connecting to the Lord of the universe.
Yeah.
I mean, all that capital he calls like your senses, feelings, either they're used for the purpose of why they're given, or if it's just comfort, then they kind of get wasted, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So,
So that's how if it's wasted, then it's just like animals don't really think about their future, right? But human beings they do, right? So that's one difference. Although what he says, don't dwell too much because right, future pains, right? Dwells on past pleasure and future pains. Because it's future is not guaranteed for anyone, right? We see that death and separation, old man grows old, man perpetually revolves, so all that happens. So that's the bigger picture in terms of, so sickness is just part of that. It just doesn't, it's not the, so don't focus too much on that as well, basically, right? To develop or any event basically that is painful. Sickness is maybe one event that is painful or something else may be painful because that's part of your whole bigger picture of your life. It's just one of the ways, means for you to actually pass life with proper consciousness and awareness.
mm, yeah. Anything else you want to add?
I think we're so yeah. So you have a duty, right? So this is like the responsibility, basically. It's not like I'm just free, like in terms of I don't want to do anything, but there is always in life you have to keep yourself busy in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is a duty, as he says. But people don't really see it that way. They just think like, oh, I just happen to be given a life. From whom or how, nobody thinks about it. We don't think about that. We just, oh, and so I can do whatever I want with it, even though it's not really mine to begin with. I didn't decide to live. I want to live after I've been given it, but I never think about who gave it to me, and then what's the purpose of it then? If I was given it. So
Yeah, I didn't understand like the last sentence. He says, if it is like if
not
your
too severe, patient
doctor's
should be
accuracy, your
sought.
patient should be sought to endure it.
I think because I think he mentioned this in some other places, and that which is strange. He says that like sometimes maybe it's best to not get a remedy. Uh, if just you let things pass on their own, um, you just be patient with it rather than trying to go find this cure, that cure, uh, because using it as a means of worship rather than quickly losing the opportunity with, medicine. So. Whereas if something's severe, it's a little bit different scenario where you need to be treated. But if it's not, like, let's say you have like a cold or something like that, or like some sort of infection where you're a sore throat, like something like that, I guess, or um, stomach pain, stomach is upset. Like, is it necessary to just go quick to treatment, or is it you made more reflection and if it doesn't cause a significant harm to you? So, you know. It's best to use it as an opportunity rather than just go straight to treatment and then just like forget about it. That's typically what happens because people don't
Yeah.
want to deal with illness. So
Yeah, if it's a light thing, yeah, you don't really worry about it too much. But if it's really something serious, then yeah, you go.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, exactly. I think he mentions a similar part or place he's written that. So yeah.
But then, yeah, he also made the point not to complain about it, right? So that's important
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
any case, either situation.
So
Okay.
okay, we'll go to the fourth remedy. Plaintiff ill person. Plaintiff ill person. You have no right to complain. What is due to you is to offer thanks and be patient. For your body and members and faculties are not your property. For your body and members and faculties are not your property. You did not make them, nor did you buy them. Nor did you buy them from other workshops. That means they are someone else's property, and their owner has disposal over his property as he wishes. As is related in the 26th word, an extremely wealthy and skillful craftsman, for example, employs a poor man as a model in order to show off his fine art and considerable wealth. In return for a wage, for a brief hour, he clothes the poor man in a bejeweled and skillfully wrought garment. He works it on him and gives it various states. In order to display the extraordinary varieties of his art, he cuts the garment, alters it, and lengthens and shortens it. Does the poor wagener have the right to say to that person, "You are causing me trouble, you are causing me distress with the form you have given it. Make me bow down and stand up"? Has he the right to tell him that he is spoiling his fine appearance by trimming and shortening the garment, which makes him beautiful? Can he tell him he is being unkind and unfair? O sick person, just like in this comparison, in order to display the garment of your body with which he has clothed you, bejeweled with luminous faculties like the eye, the ear, the reason, and the heart, and the embroideries of his most beautiful names, the all-glorious Maker makes you revolve amid numerous states and changes you in many situations. Just as you learn of his name of provider through hunger, so come to know his name of healer through your illness. Since suffering and calamity show the decrees of some of his names, many instances of good are to be found within those flashes of wisdom and rays of mercy. If the veil of illness which you fear and loathe were to be lifted, behind it you would find many agreeable and beautiful meanings. Okay. So the fourth remedy, um, again, he's saying you have no right to complain. Instead, offering thanks and be patient. And so we talked about previously, because it's obvious to human being things we're given, whether they're material or immaterial, our faculties, our spirit, our consciousness, or our body are not our own. They're given. So whoever owns it can do as he pleases with it. And then he gives the example that he mentions in the 26th word about how somebody who, like a skillful artisan, a craftsman, uses a poor individual to shape a garment, and he has him move or contort in different ways, stand up, bow down, sit, and lengthens and trims the garment. And so he's working on him to um, display this adornment, this bejeweled garment. So why would the poor person complain about this? Even though it's this garment that is being shaped to him is going to make him beautiful. So that's what he uses as an analogy, is that this garment we have is our body and our faculties. And he uses the eye, the ear, which is often quoted in the Quran, the reason, the aql, and the heart, qalb. Um, like I think eye is uyun or ayn, and ear is udhun or adhan. So like very those four things are, I think that's what he mentioned, often quoted in the Quran, because those are some of the most important means of our experience of the world, how we relate to the world, our like sort of interaction with the world, sensory experience, and how we process them. And so it's through uh, you know, through this sort of alteration, changing of states, health, illness, going back and forth between those two, or like states of joy and sadness, that like the most beautiful names are manifested through you. So you learn of provider through hunger that's manifested. So that if you lift the veil of hunger, you see the provider, all the name of Ar-Razaq, um, the provider. And then if you lift the veil of illness, you see a Shafi, the healer. Um, so um, if you were just to be patient and actually pondered on, reflected on, and you could see beyond what's just apparent, you would see his most beautiful names, how he's working on you through those most beautiful names. Uh, so yeah, it's interesting. It's very qadari, like in the terms of like it's very divine determining, like, or it is divine determining. In other words, like your creator's acting on you at this very moment, but not like in a negative way, but in a very positive way to show you, you know, who he is, who he must be, and like how merciful and compassionate he is, or like how much he's doing for you. So, but we just complain, I guess. Um, well, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so basically he starts with like plaintive ill person, this one thing, right? And then he says, because you don't own yourself, that's the first thing to understand, basically, right?
Hmm.
So this means they are someone else's property, and their owner has disposal over his property as he wishes. Right? So the problem why human beings complain is because we think we deserve it, we own it, as if we are owners of our own selves in a way. Right? So the complaint goes away if you say, this is not even yours, this is not even mine. Somebody else, why are you even complaining, worrying about it? So that's an interesting way of putting it, basically. So the body, members of your faculties are not your property. So we usually miss that point in a way in terms of how, in our regular living, we forget that, okay, yes, this the senses, the faculties, yeah, they're given to me, but they're not my property, like in ownership. So whoever has given to me can do whatever, like body, if some part of my body is not feeling well, then yeah, whoever has disposal over it, right, does whatever he wishes because it's his property, it's not my property. So who am I to really start complaining? but then he gives like a something to do basically with all that, whatever is given to you as a gift in terms of the properties that's not yours to begin with. And there you can see under the veil what's going on in that. So he says, okay, you can look into what they point to, right? Just like in while eating, you get to know, or your hunger, sense of hunger, which is not yours as well. It's given to you, right? So that acts as a something as a messenger in a way. And you get to know, okay, from hunger you have who is going to satisfy, who's the provider for that hunger. So you get to know the provider, right? So same thing as you said, Shafi, you get to know from sickness, because even your whatever illness is given to you, well, and whatever part area is being hurt, could be psychological, could be physical. That's all given to you as well. It's not your property again. So look for the name behind it as well.
Yeah, so it's a very different perspective because people think when you get ill or even when you're hungry, that actually there's a manifestation of a name. And people just take this hunger for granted, this illness for granted. Like, oh, it's just an event, a random event, a chance event. Oh, I didn't eat. There's something actually there's a meaning behind it. There's something significant behind it. There's a divine message, some sort of eternal message. But we sort of take these things for granted or lightly, that even hunger or illness can be a form of worship, or reflection. It's very strange. People think about Islam or what the Quran says, and there's just the five prayers and that's it. But actually, every moment can be a form of worship and reflection. So, and that his act of creation is always happening. You know, kun fayakun, being it is always happening, and we are a manifestation of kun fayakun. Um, so. Um, We're always, and as I like the verse you quoted, we're always returning back to him if we realize it. Every moment we can go back to him. We just have to be aware, be patient, and be thankful. No right to complain. So, um, yeah,
Yeah, this closing is amazing, right? Since suffering and calamities basically show the decrees of some of his names, many instances of good are to be found within those flashes of wisdom and rays of mercy. So usually with suffering and calamities, we are just lost in that experience itself, the physical or whatever, in that calamity or that suffering that we give too much attention to that suffering and calamity that we never see that there are like multiple layers of names that are hidden within them.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Show the decrees of some of his names, many instances of good are to be found. So we don't, there's no good in terms of any calamity, right? Usually that's what the secular civilization would think of, but this is strange in terms of how in this fourth remedy he's saying there is a goodness in that calamity, suffering. It's not just sickness, basically. He's extending it to any experience like suffering and calamity that psychological issues people go through, right? Depression people go through loneliness, people go through many different aspects of suffering and calamities. Right? So there's look behind those, if the veil of illness, if the veil of the calamity, veil of suffering is to be lifted, right, that you're fearing and loathing. Behind it, you find many agreeable and beautiful meanings, so, which is kind of difficult to do in a way, right? But this is
Yeah,
like, how could like I'm suffering here, I'm sick, and then something is not right, but then how can I find beautiful meanings in there? I would think the healing would do it, or some solution that comes out that would kind of be more agreeable and give me beautiful meanings. But this is completely reversed or upside down in a way that he's saying. Behind that is the agreeable and beautiful meanings. It
yeah,
reminds me of like a prophetic encounter, like with his companions. They were asking, they fear that life is better, but nothing is happening to them in life, basically. So they used to worry about that, basically, because I think the understanding was that, okay, something like an illness or something must happen because that connects you, goes back to who you are, what your reality is, so that you can connect back to your source of existence. But if nothing happens, then there's no reason for the human being to, like, if everything's beautiful already in this world, then what is left? Right? You don't look for a hereafter, you don't look for anything. You don't look for your Lord.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, if you don't see things as sort of like messages, divine messages, then um, you sort of miss the point of everything then, actually. So, but um, which, as you said, it's sort of upside down. It's a little bit different than what people are obviously
right,
used to.
nobody says like, okay, this calamity is good or this sickness is good, right? Instances of good are to be found, right? Or beautiful, agreeable and beautiful meaning in those things. It's very like you have to be like, well, a good believer in a way. Good understanding of what life is, what your purpose is, to deal with the agreeable, like to make it agreeable and have a beautiful meaning out of that, whatever the suffering, calamity that one is going through. Right? So I don't know what the exact, but suffering and calamities show the decrease of his names, which is, I think, something one must be doing actually. That's the thing, right? Instead of complaining or contemplating on the physical aspect of those things, but one must be really looking for. I think this is a new thing that he's adding in terms of this fourth remedy that look for the goodness in it, right? The beautiful meanings behind it, like you said, as a sign, basically. But I mean, yeah, we take it, okay, it's a sign, but but I'm suffering here. I understand it's a sign, so get me out of it quickly, in a way.
But even that, like when you say like, oh, but you don't maybe not want it, but even like when you say, I don't, why can you get cure me quickly? I mean, you can't say to the thing itself, cure me quickly, or the medicine. You have to go back to him. So in that regard, in the end, you still have to go back to him. But I like his perspective because when you have an illness, it sort of makes you think like when he says here, where he says, as you said at the beginning, like the first thing is it's not your property to begin with. So that leads to thankfulness. Like if somebody takes away, like somebody gives me something, but it's on loan, and I know I have to give it back to them, when I give it back to them, I may still want it. For example, if somebody loans me, I don't know, let's say a car, for example, to drive, but it's not my car. And they give it to me for free. It'll freely give it to loan to me. But and it's like, oh, I like driving this car. It's a nice car. It has this, it's that. But and then I have to give it back to them. I still want it, but at the end, I know it's not my property, and I have to be thankful for it. Otherwise, why would I? How can I complain about it when it's not even mine to begin with? It doesn't even make sense. Um, so. In this regard, like I think, as you said, the first step is you just have to let go of ownership of things. Not, it wasn't even yours to begin with, and it changes your perspective. So you're entrusted with it, life and your faculties and your body, and you have to be a good khalifa or steward or caretaker, but it's not yours. Just like if somebody loaned me something like this car example, I have to take care of it. I can't waste it or ruin it or be reckless with it, but it's not mine though at the end of the day. So I think really thinking about that it's not our property, it makes a big difference.
Yep, the whole perspective changes once one, if I understand that it's not my property.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So um
Beautiful.
we can uh we
I
can
think
either
we'll
stop
stop
here.
here for today. Yeah, we'll continue, I think, with the fifth. right, next time.
Next
Right.
week? Okay, we can do that, inshallah.
Inshallah. Yeah, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma alamtana innaka anta al-alim al-hakim. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Bi Surah al-Fatiha. All right, thank you everyone. Inshallah, we'll see you